Yay! I'm so happy.
I know, and honestly, I went through Kylo Ren's playlist, and I was just in heaven because I have to tell you this: whenever I was a high schooler, heavy metal and hard rock, those were my genres. So I was going through his music list, and I was just like, oh, memories.
That's amazing. Yeah, I kind of dabble in like many different genres of music and stuff, and so all of the stuff on Kylo Ren's playlist, and then there's stuff on Ray's too. I was having a lot of fun. There I only picked three songs for Ray's playlist that I felt like were the most Reylo-ish to me.
Mm-hmm.
And this particular podcast topic was requested by Danny Bay. I'm hoping that I'm pronouncing their username correctly, but they wanted to, because this started off as them wanting our opinion about a couple of the songs, or they wanted our opinion on Ray's Spotify playlist, particularly the song Blue Jeans by Lana Del Rey. But then I thought this would be a perfect opportunity to go into both Ray and Kylo Ren's, and to
Mm-hmm.
parallel the lyrics to, like what's in the movie and in The Force Awakens, and then also the footage that we see from, The Last Jedi so far. And some of what I've read in of the lyrics in Ray's Spotify playlist, like obviously the songs weren't written specifically for Raylo, but some of the songs kind of make me think that it is foreshadowing some of what is to come with Ray and Kylo Ren's relationship. So like
Mm-hmm.
what, did you like, what was your experience kind of going through the the playlist, and like what did it make you think about kind of Raylo and their relationship and stuff?
Um, when it comes to Kylo Ren's playlist, I actually wrote it down. Everything about Ben, well, it's really Ben Solo. Everything about all of those songs to me, it represents young teen angst, but also when you really dig deeper into the lyrics, because teenagers, especially males, whenever they're coming into adulthood, they really struggle with where they feel the most happy. It's not so much where they belong; it's where they feel happiest and where they feel most where they feel when they have the most purpose. Just and I felt that Kylo Ren's playlist is more about a spiritual battle. It connects with Rey very much so, but I think even the songs that represent him individually even connect to Rey at the fact that he, like Rey, and then of course Finn, they're all experiencing these individual journeys through adulthood because this is a story of coming into an adult for Rey, and then of course you have the foils of Kylo Ren and then Finn. And I felt like, let me see if I can read my writing. Everything about Ben Solo is a spiritual battle. He is the quiet young man who joins a fight club because the world around him is no longer enough. His anger and his disdain for this world, which has betrayed him in more ways than one, is personified through the persona of Kylo Ren. But Kylo Ren is an example when someone takes Team Rebellion too far into a dark place where they get swallowed up in their own dispassion. Ben Solo wants so much to believe in something, but everything he's come to trust has failed him. That also means no. And I feel like the lyrics, especially some of these harder songs, like there's one song by Slipknot, and I'll go into detail about it later, but that song especially, when you listen to it, it really amps you up. It gets you angry. It makes you want to fight. It makes you want to lash out, and I think it really embodies Kylo Ren. And in truth, I think let's see, what was another song? Ashes of Eden. I've seen other people comment on this, and I have to agree. Ashes of Eden by Breaking Benjamin, that is definitely a Raylo song. Angels Fall by Breaking Benjamin, that one, I don't remember the exact lyrics, but I know I listen to the song constantly, and the tone of the song is very, how do I put it? It's poignant, and it makes me think of someone. who wants to right a wrong, someone who is about to sacrifice themselves. It has that very intense build in the music, and that also is something that's Kylo Ren, because of course he's going through his redemption arc. That's, I mean, it started when he killed Han, but it will be manifested in The Last Jedi. So
I wanted to say that I really agree with what you said about Kylo Ren's playlist sort of embodying teen angst and that adolescence. And it
mm-hmm.
reminds me a lot of what Rian Johnson said recently about Kylo Ren representing that adolescence, or representing the part of adolescence that's all about rebellion and defying the parents and chaos and stuff like that.
I think that's one thing. I don't know if I'm wording this appropriately, but for me at least, on a personal level, with Kylo Ren, especially with this playlist, it actually heightens his sex appeal
It does.
because because he is that uncontrolled um, male adolescent. It's just like a shaking rage. Like he's standing there, and it's like the world around him is bursting into flames, and you just see him, and it's just the heat off of his eyes and everything. And that really, to me, it embodies Kylo Ren and what he's going through. But the coming of age, where he will be able to taper that rage, and he will not. That the rage will always be one of his aesthetics. I think it'll always be a part of his personality. But I think one of the most attractive things that's going to happen with Kylo Ren is that he will learn to use his rage in a more productive way. Because I think even Adam Driver commented on the fact that he has all this energy and he just doesn't know where to put it. And that's true. He has all of this energy, and I know exactly what it feels like. Because I'm also one of the reasons I hung out with guys so much in my youth is because I have a very dominant, very strong personality. It's one of the reasons I listened to metal music when I was young, because it helped to kind of focus and vent some of that energy. So you can just imagine the rage that's roiling off of Kylo Ren, how he feels. It just, and he doesn't, when you cannot put that, or at least focus that rage, and it just builds inside of you, it becomes very what's the word, it begins to tear you apart, as he's saying. It just tears him up inside. And yeah, everything I'm looking at and the music I've listened to so far, everything about it points toward Reylo as well, but it's really beautiful in embodying his rage and his feeling of betrayal too, because a lot of this music, like, I'll go ahead and go into one of the songs. Let's talk about Duality by Slipknot. I said this type of music is notorious for amplifying aggression, and one of the band members in the music video itself, if you watch the music video, is seen hitting himself on the head, similar to how Kylo Ren pounds his wound in The Force Awakens to galvanize his focus through pain and rage. Also in the video, you see countless young men screaming and acting aggressively, representing the pent-up fury of dispirited young men. All of the band members wear masks, an interesting little factoid that coincides with Kylo's representation of male youth and rebellion, wanting to be something else other than Ben Solo, something more or different than what he truly is. Their masks are depictions of pain in many ways, or the macabre of the splintered self. The lyrics of Duality are chock full of aggressive teen angst, as well as a desire to break free from one's predetermined fate. This set of lyrics in particular fit Kylo Ren's dilemma. I guess I'll save the best for last. My future seems like one big pass. You're left with me because you left me no choice. Kylo is the grandson of Darth Vader, the dark side of Anakin Skywalker, and he fully embraces the fact, likely because he felt he had no other option. He was not made aware of his link to Vader until much later in his life, but that had a devastating effect. One lyric strikes me as a foreshadowing of Snoke's ultimate downfall. You cannot kill what you did not create. Ben's anger is a double-edged sword. Ben himself, a dangerous element to tangle with despite Snoke and his power. Snoke did not create Kylo Ren, Ben Solo did. But Snoke takes some, if not most, of the credit, I feel. Snoke's power over Ben will wane, and this lyric holds more weight as a potential threat aimed at Snoke. And that's just one of the songs. And it doesn't have, I don't see any Reylo ties to it, but I think it foreshadows that Ben is going to change his course regardless, which of course is positive in light of Reylo anyway.
There's something that's really beautiful, and there was something that I wanted to go back to that you said earlier about Ben learning how to channel his rage in a way where it's a lot more constructive as opposed to allowing it to tear him apart. And one thing that I think is really interesting is that Rey, I think, is able to do this. She is able to, she has this ability to channel her rage in a constructive way, and or it's in a very concentrated way. And I think that that's something that he ends up learning from her in The Force Awakens, or at least he learns. It's something that she teaches him indirectly, and
Mm-hmm.
and so I'm, and obviously that's, that's only touching on like one of the points that you brought up, but that's something that it kind of, I'm interested to see if her level of precision and her ability to focus and channel that rage in more of a constructive way, if that will inspire him to also learn that there's more than one way to express his power, or like he can still use his rage to channel that power, but do it in a much more concentrated and constructive way, if that makes sense.
Oh, it does. It absolutely does, and I completely agree. Because you notice in the saber duel, when Kylo Ren, even fighting Finn, he was he was just he was really kind of just wild with it half the time. He was flamboyant, he was a cocky peacock, I mean, really. And then you see with Rey, he's striking her saber down, but it's like half the time he's wanting her to be more rage filled. He's wanting her to strike back and her be harder. He's not going to hurt her. It's so obvious to me, at least. But he wanted her to be more than what she was doing. She was holding back, and he wanted her to just let everything out. Well, whenever, of course, they had that force bond moment, then you see her rage, and you see how focused she is. It's very different, and it was her eyes that actually gave her away. And you could see the surprise in his face when he was just like, whoa.
Yeah.
And then the fact that she can hold back and she can stop herself, because she does have, in my opinion, and it's in her personality too. I think it's in her character makeup, her personality. She has a governing mechanism that can aid her in using her emotions to benefit her more than just allowing her emotions wild, just to run wild. She uses them when she needs them, and then she puts them on the back burner whenever they're getting too out of control. She basically tames them, and he doesn't do that. And of course, like we were saying earlier, this playlist definitely represents the feeling of betrayal, the rage, the angst, and it really, to me, represents somebody, because this is also coming from personal experience. So many of the guys I hung with, they really didn't have a place. And this type of music gave them a little bit of direction, because the rage and the anger was what fulfilled a little bit of what they needed. You understand? It gave them a little bit of a vent. And I think that's part of what Kylo Ren is missing, is some of his rage gives him direction in ways, but really he doesn't have a place where he truly belongs. And he thought it was with Snoke, but now that is faltering and it's obvious. And of course, we'll see that in The Last Jedi. But before that, I think it was the 6 years that he spent with Snoke, this rage is one of the things that helped him with his sense of direction. And he uses it, even though he tries to restrain it, and he does a decent job until you see in The Force Awakens, the only times he really has the temper tantrums is when he makes a mistake. Like with Finn, Or with Rey, whenever Rey gets away, he shouldn't have. He should have had more guards instead of just having one. I think that his rage is a part of what helped him with his lack of direction. It gave him a false sense of direction, if that makes sense.
Oh yeah, that totally makes sense. And I completely agree, just, having gone through Kylo Ren's playlist. And one of the things that I also found really striking about Kylo Ren's playlist as opposed to Rey's, because Rey's playlist is very much about, I would say that most of the songs are about female strength and independence and being a kick-ass girl.
Mm-hmm.
And then the rest of the songs, the Reylo songs, it's kind of funny because, like I said, you have like these strong, strong female independent oriented type songs, and then the Reylo songs, it's all about a good girl falling for a bad boy. And and by falling, I mean she falls hard. She falls really, really hard for the bad boy. And but I would say that the Reylo songs on her playlist are sort of separate, or kind of as like you know it's kind of separate from the focus of the rest of her podcast. Whereas in Kylo Ren's playlist, you not only do you have the focus on like the rage and the betrayal, but there is also a pretty strong undercurrent of romance that goes all throughout his playlist.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I agree. And then, of course, you take this song, Ashes of Eden. I'll read some of the lyrics. This is by Breaking Benjamin. This is one song definitely that is a Reylo song. This is most definitely a Reylo song. Will the faithful be rewarded when we come to the end? Will I miss the final warning from the lie that I have lived? Is there anybody calling? I can see the soul within, and I am not worthy. I am not worthy of this. Are you with me after all? Why can't I hear you? Are you with me through it all? Then why can't I feel you? Stay with me, don't let me go, because there's nothing left at all. Stay with me, don't let me go, until the ashes of Eden fall. And I think that definitely that's totally Reylo. And I think it embodies Kylo's sense of loss. Of he was already in a bad way, and then for him to make a choice like with Han, and we know Ryan said that Han is going to be an ever-present element in TLJ. Whether I don't think it'll be a Force ghost. Maybe we might have a little bit of dialogue recorded from Harrison Ford, maybe, or we might have a Force back vision or something. Either way, the fact that Han Solo is going to be ever present, it just goes to show you that Kylo Ren realizes he's made a mistake. And the beautiful thing about it, that to me, it was just so stunningly contrasted, was the fact that he had met Rey. And like I had said in other previous podcasts, he's the one who didn't shy away from destiny, even though he was begging the Vader mask, I feel it again, the folds of the light, show me the darkness, and then Maz mentions the light. It's always been there. It will guide you. And then Rey gets up and she says, I don't want any part of this. And she just wants to go home. And who is it that runs into her? And not just runs into her, he pursues her way out in the woods. Way out in the woods. So you have him being attracted to the light of Rey, or at least destiny itself. And then you have the fact that they connected Rey and Han together, and her seeing Han in an idealized way, and it's not necessarily a positive way. She saw him at the completely opposite side of the spectrum of how Kylo saw his father. And then you have Kylo tell Rey, kind of a warning, he would have disappointed you. And then he kills Han. But the beautiful thing, and I want to comment on this, and this could also parallel with the lyrics, but someone, I think it was Mother of Quartz, she made a huge, gorgeous meta about filming and symbolism and the use of light and everything. And I thought this, when I realized it was so beautiful. But when Kylo kills Han, before he does it and he's backing away from Han, the half of his face is red, half of his face is blue. The blue half of his face gets doused in shadow when he backs up. And then, of course, whenever he kills Han, his face is fully red. But after that, if you watch it's right afterward in the snow, when he goes and tells Rey, finds them and tells her, it's just us now, the shadow is shifted. It's the side of his face that's going to get cut that's in the dark. And then whenever he sees Rey grab the saber for the first time, it's that side of his face again that's in the dark. The shadow is shifted. And I think that really embodies so much of Kylo Ren's transformation. And then on top of the fact that he did make a mistake. He made a huge mistake, whether he realized it or not. I mean, I think he regretted it, but I don't think he realized the depth of what completely that he'd done, because like we've discussed before, he probably didn't have the best relationship with Han. And that's not to say Han was a horrible father. It's just that Ben is not an easy, he obviously wasn't an easy kid, and he had powers that Han didn't understand. And whenever you have that kind of dynamic, because a boy is going to try to look up to his father, when a boy is powerful in ways his father isn't, and then his father doesn't fulfill some of the boy's needs, you're going to have animosity between the two. And it's unfortunate, but that's a part of the dynamic between Kylo Ren and Han. And I think it really showed in that bridge scene. And then, of course, like I said, the shift of light, it was so beautiful. And then especially at the cliff edge, whenever their sabers are locked and he's looking deeply into her, half of his face, the half that she's going to slice later, is in shadow. Once again, you see the shift of light or the shift of shadow. His face has changed. And it's just really, it's really beautiful. And I think it also coincides with this song, Ashes of Eden. Will the faithful be rewarded when we come to the end? And he's coming to an end, and he's asking, everything that I've done, am I going to be rewarded for this? And then the next in lyrics, I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy of this. So possibly the forgiveness, I think, that he will get from his mother, and it's not going to be something that's going to be easily won. I'm sure that's what some people are going to argue, but it's obvious. It's not going to be something that he's even going to willingly accept. He won't want his mother's forgiveness. Not at all. He's going to feel so guilty for what he did. And then on top of this, in the lyrics of Ashes of Eden, you have, are you with me after all? Why can't I hear you? So also, interestingly, this could mirror the connection between Han. Never thought of that, but it could. So it's just really beautiful how these songs, and I've noticed this with Kylo Ren's, his aren't as obvious, at least the ones that I've listened to, in the romantic way, but these lyrics, I think, embody Kylo Ren's journey ultimately, and it's really beautiful, actually.
Yeah, it is really beautiful. And in terms of the lighting, the use of lighting to split his face in half between the light and the dark, I think that's a really beautiful way of representing the struggle. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of embodies his character. So I'm actually going to have to go back and watch the movie. I mean, I'm aware of some of the scenes of where it's splitting his face in half between with the lighting, but I'm going to have to go and pay special attention to that now just so that I can. But the Ashes of Eden song, when you were reading the lyrics, it also kind of reminded me of what Ben Solo, like what a young Ben Solo, and even as Kylo Ren, um, what he must have felt like, uh, if he was, say, for instance, hypothetically, if he was experiencing Force visions of Rey, and he's not exactly sure who this person is and why she's important to him, but for whatever reason, she kind of represents this beacon of light to him. And in some ways, it's something that he can hold on to for that sort of reassurance. And so it just kind of made me think of that a little bit when you were reading the lyrics. I was like, oh, like Force
Yeah,
Visions of Rey.
yeah, that too. Yeah, definitely. These are the rest of the lyrics. I'll read them real quick. Will the darkness fall upon me when the air is growing thin? Will the light begin to pull me to its everlasting will? I can hear the voices haunting. There is nothing left to fear, and I am still calling. I am still calling to you. Are you with me after all? Why can't I hear you? Are you with me through it all? Then why can't I feel you? Stay with me, don't let me go, because there's nothing left at all. Stay with me, don't let me go, until the ashes fall.
Wow.
And yeah, and then this one I think is beautiful. Heaven above me, take my hand, shine until there's nothing left but you. Heaven above me, take my hand, shine until there's nothing left but you. Now, ultimately, after reading the lyrics in their entirety, I think this song has to do with Rey. I think whenever the lyric "I can hear the voices haunting" would be something to do with Han Solo and his past. And not only that, when you first meet Kylo Ren, whenever he has those villagers executed, it's just all of his past sins that echoes to him. I mean, can you imagine how he probably feels, Kylo Ren, in his quiet moments, because he's force sensitive. And then you had in the original trilogy, whenever Obi-Wan experienced, I think it was Leia's planet being destroyed, he felt all of them. He felt them all die in one horrific, painful moment. So, how did Ben feel whenever they used Star Killer on, I think it was the Hosnian system? How did he feel? Did he, because we never know that for sure, did he feel the pain? Did he block it out? Because he is extremely force sensitive. So, and he's studied on it and trained on it for years. So he's heightened and sharpened his abilities. So no telling what he feels. But the lyrics, "Heaven above me, take my hand, shine until there's nothing left but you." I'm sorry, but to me, that just says Rey.
Yeah, that says Rey all the way. Like, I just imagine him just picturing, or it makes me think of that scene in, or that frame in the interrogation scene where he's crouched in darkness and he's looking up at her and she's bathed in light while she's in the interrogation chair. That's kind of like what it reminds me of, is him looking up at her almost like she's the light pulling him. But
To go on to another song that I really love is "The Hand That Feeds" by Nine Inch Nails. And the lyrics of it are so great because for me it foreshadows how Kylo Ren is going to turn against Snoke. Some of the lyrics are, you're keeping in step in the line, got your chin held high, and you feel just fine because you do what you're told. But inside, your heart is black and it's hollow and it's cold. Which
that is
is
perfect.
so, right?
That is so
It,
perfect.
it's so him. And then I'm skipping over the chorus. What if this whole crusade's a charade, and behind it all there's a price to be paid for the blood on which we dine, justified in the name of the holy and the divine? And that is so Kylo, because whatever he's doing, he believes deeply in what he's doing. Because I think I've said this before, but Kylo doesn't strike me as a character that's after just pure power. He can get off on it and he can enjoy it because it feeds the rage and everything. But ultimately, to me, Kylo is dramatic, and he is someone he really has the makeup, the setup, and his character type and everything. He strikes me as someone who would be a martyr. He really strikes me as that way because he also has the knight coding, which says that he's very, very loyal. Whatever he's serving, even if it's just a cause, not a person, he is completely loyal to it. He does not question it. And it's one of his greatest strengths and his greatest weaknesses. Because whenever he tells Han the supreme leader is wise, I mean, that's one of the most foolish things you could say, just in terms of you should never fully trust anyone. it just, to me, it's, I love that about Kylo, is just how he's not your typical villain. He's so multifaceted, he's complex, and his emotions really drive home that he's not comfortable where he's at. He's not happy. He wants to be understood, and it's one of the things that has never been for him. And of course, his playlist is chock full of songs that really kind of embody being misunderstood or never finding understanding, and it, that rage that comes with it.
Um, some of the lyrics remind me a lot of, there's a quote from the Force Awakens novelization. It's from the interrogation scene, and it's when Kylo Ren first unmasks himself, and Rey perceives of his appearance and of his face that he looks like a student who takes no joy in his teachings, or he perceives all of the problems of the universe, of the galaxy, but none of its pleasures, or the joys of it, or whatever. And I don't
Yeah.
know, that that just reminds me a lot of that, those lyrics from that particular song, because he is doing everything that he thinks that he should be doing, and he feels somewhat justified in his actions and in his goals, and in his agenda, but at the same time he takes no joy in it,
Mm-hmm.
and it
Mm-hmm.
there's something really hollow and superficial about it.
Oh, I completely agree. And see, that's another thing. They all, everything about Kylo Ren's playlist honestly can connect to Rey because of how they've constructed The Force Awakens and the movie and the novelization both, because Rey is how part of how we view Kylo Ren. She's the lens by which we view him, and the fact that she was able to see these little nuances in Kylo Ren, it really sets a tone for us to better understand him and his struggles, even though they are being vague and that's deliberate. But for me, I really love how the lyrics of this song in particular, I'll read some more to you real quick. Just how deep do you believe? Will you bite the hand that feeds? Will you chew until it bleeds? Can you get up off your knees? Are you brave enough to see? Do you want to change it? And I think this in particular right here is definitely an embodiment of Kylo Ren during The Last Jedi. Because he does, I'm pretty sure he bows. It's been speculated, but I'm pretty certain he's going to bow before Snoke. And these lyrics, can you get up off your knees? Are you brave enough to see? Because it's really difficult for a person once they've made, especially a monumental mistake, like killing your own father. I mean, you really have a hard time dealing with that. So are you brave enough to deal with it? And that's going to be something, and I don't think I've ever touched on that, but it just hit me. That's going to be something that's going to, it's really going to be beautiful. That I think Rian Johnson, a part of his quote whenever he says that we're going to tear the armor down or tear it off of Kylo Ren, and you're going to get to see how he's going to grow and mature from this aggressive, selfish, snooty guy to this young man who has been humbled and who isn't going to come at Rey and say, you need a teacher. I can show you the ways of the Force. And he's desperate, but at the same time, he's got her backed against a corner. No, this time he's going to come to her with an offered hand, and she will take his hand.
Ooh,
She'll take it.
ooh, that reminds me of one of the songs on Ray's Spotify playlist.
Oh,
Do you want me to share some of the lyrics with you?
yeah, definitely.
Okay, so let me find it really quick. Okay, so the title of the song is We Found Love, and it's written by Calvin Harris and performed by Rihanna. I'm not especially, like, I at first didn't see anything special about this song because I don't particularly like this song, but when I actually started to read the lyrics, I thought it was, I found it really interesting because it kind of touches on themes of the light and shadow, and two people standing side by side together. Um, anyway, I'll read the lyrics. It says, "Yellow diamonds in the light, and we're standing side by side. As your shadow crosses mine, what it takes to come alive." So when it says when you were talking about Kylo Ren coming to Rey as an equal and extending his hand to her instead of backing her up against a corner and being very presumptuous about it, it made me think of this particular lyric where it says, um, "And we're standing side by side as your shadow crosses mine." And
Oh yeah.
there was something else in this particular song too that really stood out to me, where it says, "Shine a light through an open door. Love and life I will divide. Turn away, 'cause I need you more. Feel the heartbeat in my mind." So the line where it says "feel the heartbeat in my mind," it reminds me of when they were in the interrogation scene and they were in each other's minds and you hear the heartbeat in the background. And then also later, when after Rey has defeated Kylo Ren on Starkiller Base and she's running to the Millennium Falcon, and when she turns back to she's looking over her shoulder, presumably after him. In the subtitles, it actually shows that there was a heartbeat, or there's a heartbeat that could be heard for, just a second as she looked back. So the heartbeat kind of represents their bond with each other, or, them connecting mentally. And so I thought it was cool how it had the line "feel the heartbeat in my mind" in those lyrics. And but there's obviously other meaning in this song where the lyric "we found love in a hopeless place," um that's that's kind of more self-explanatory. But what I kind of took from this song, and this is relating to what you said, is that I feel like Rey and Kylo Ren coming together, that they will be in a way the new hope. They'll be the bringers of hope and balance to the galaxy, and kind of restoring things to the way that they need to be. So what do you think about that? Just some of the lyrics and how that connects with what you were saying.
Oh, I completely agree with it. And that got me really excited whenever you said that there's a heartbeat because I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's really beautiful how they do connect, and it's very subtle. And like you're pointing out, because it's especially, I think it's more obvious on Ray's playlist than it is Kylo Ren's. But there are a few songs on here that point very much toward Reylo. But yeah, the lyrics of that talking about a heartbeat and standing side by side and how the shadows cross, and that's when we come alive and everything. And you notice whenever they both really came into this new way of being, I guess, is the way to describe it, is whenever they locked sabers, shadows crossed, and then they bonded fully. And Rey found a darkness in her, and Kylo Ren found a light in him. And it will affect, I think personally, it's going to heavily affect how he proceeds in The Last Jedi. But I just think that's really beautiful because then you contrast the fact that he kept wanting her to fight, and he says harder and these different things when she's striking him, but it does. Once the two of them met, you found that there was a different side to them. Rey showed her dark side, he showed his light, and you saw that he was worn out, he was exhausted. And I think there's even been discussion among the Reylo community about the yin and yang symbolism, and how when one side pulls from the other, you deplete the energy from the other. And it was kind of like Kylo Ren basically wasted himself because whenever she opened up and then he opened up, he gave her parts of his rage, and then that kind of depleted him. And he wanted her to keep fighting, but he was so exhausted. Honestly, whenever I saw that, and I'm not sure if I've said this in previous podcasts, but when I saw that, I really thought he wanted one of two things. He wanted her to stay, or he wanted her to kill him. And those were the only two things he wanted. Because honestly, I feel like he was so lost at that point. when he killed Han because he realized he had made a mistake, but the devastation of the mistake is still going to affect him. He's not going to fully experience it until probably midway of The Last Jedi. So I think that song in particular, I haven't listened to the song myself, but the lyrics fit very well.
Yeah, I completely agree. And in terms of the other songs on, do you want me to read some of the other songs on Ray's Spotify playlist?
Sure, sure.
Okay, yeah. So some of the songs, there is one song that I'm curious to see like what your opinion is because I feel like there could be potentially a lot of foreshadowing for The Last Jedi, and it's the song Blue Jeans by Lana Del Rey. One thing that I found, so the main thing about this song that I found is that it's obviously about a good girl falling for a bad boy, but there is another aspect of this song where it's not a happy love song. It's more about heartbreak and sadness and kind of pining after someone who left. So it says blue jeans, white shirt, walked into the room, you know, you made my eyes burn. It was like James Dean for sure. You so fresh to death and sick as cancer. You were sort of punk rock. I grew up on hip hop, but you fit me better than my favorite sweater. And I know that love is mean and love hurts, but I still remember that day we met in December. Oh baby. So a lot of people pick up on the line I still remember that day we met in December because of the snow fight between Rey and Kylo Ren in the forest on Starkiller Base. So obviously like we can't tell whether or not they met in December, but the fact that they're like fighting in snow, it kind of says something. But then obviously too, we know right off the bat from this song that this girl is uh kind of more on the safe side of things, falling in love with the James Dean type. So he's a bad boyish sort of figure, much like Kylo Ren is. Kylo Ren is more of like a bad boy type, character than he is, more of a goody like Finn. Big dreams, gangster, said you had to leave to start your life over. I was like, no, please, stay here. We don't need no money, we can make it all work. But he headed out on Sunday, said he'd come back on Monday. I stayed up waiting, anticipating, and pacing, but it was but he was chasing paper, caught up in the game. That was the last I heard. I will love you till the end of time. I would wait a million years. Promise you'll remember that you're mine. And then it just kind of continues to, you know, go on as before. And then you went out every night, and baby, that's all right. I told you though that no matter what you did, I'd be by your side. 'Cause I'm a ride or die, whether you fail or fly. Well, shit, at least you tried. But when you walked out the door, a piece of me died. I told you I wanted more, but that's not what I had in mind. I just want it like before. We were dancing all night. Then they took you away, stole you out of my life, but you just need to remember. I will love you till the end of time. So it kind of sounds like these two people came together who were opposites, and something happened where the man was taken out of her life and left her behind and left her devastated, but regardless of that, she continues to love this person unconditionally. And so it kind of made me think that this is more foreshadowing for Reylo, in the sense that um, not only do you have these two opposites attracting, but you also have Rey, who has kind of been maybe denying her feelings for Kylo Ren or finding them problematic to her situation, suddenly allowing herself to feel the way that she does, and falling very hard. But there's been some speculation about whether or not Kylo Ren and Rey will be separated at some point, and if you know I'm kind of thinking of the "I'll come back for you, sweetheart" line from the Force Awakens novelization, and so maybe this song kind of ties in a little bit with what could happen in The Last Jedi with them being separated, or something happened that leaves everything in a mess, as we should anticipate from Rian Johnson apparently. So
Well,
So, what are your thoughts?
I know this song and I love this song, and I think I remember Lana Del Rey actually discussing a little bit that this song is about a person who she fell deeply in love with and she still loves to this very day. And he affected her so deeply. They connected on such a spiritual level that everything about him, physically, his aesthetic was beautiful to her, and everything about just the way he was, it just what's the word? She was just completely enamored with him. And even though the two of them couldn't be together, it doesn't change the fact that she still actually, I'm pretty sure she said she still actually loves this guy. So I think that you're on point with so much of what you've said, how Rey is going to be resistant toward her feelings for Kylo Ren at first. And I mean, even the actress says Rey doesn't understand Kylo Ren. And the way this is going to, I think, happen in The Force Awakens, like I've said before, and I'm one of the I'm not opportunist. I always mix those two up. I'm an optimist, but I'm very optimistic. And I think that because you've got 2.5 hours to really start wrapping up where this story is going, because the movie is going to have to really deal with the effects deeply of how Snoke messed with Kylo Ren, or at this point, I think it will be Ben Solo. And you're probably going to, I'm pretty confident, but I guess this is more hopeful. You're going to have moments where Kylo Ren is going to be reminiscent of Han or Leia, and he's going to have some snappy comments, probably something snide to say to Rey or something. And it could be that they get separated. And if this is the case, then that Force bond that everybody was talking about, I mean, I wouldn't understand why they would waste a potential like this, because like we've said before, a kiss is not necessary. But if you have them force bonded, if you have them experiencing things, and it doesn't even have to be overt, it can be more subtle, more nuanced. And I really think, coming back to the lyrics here, that day we met in December. Now I love this song because my birthday's in December, so I just love listening to that part. But yeah, I think it connects to the fact of their fight in the snow, and really, that I think that that's when they actually met each other in a spiritual way, because I think we've discussed this before, how you had in the interrogation, Kylo Ren was telling her, "Don't be afraid, I feel it too," and I said that's possibly a Freudian slip, and he didn't necessarily mean to say that aloud, because it was almost like an afterthought for him, and it was a quiet little whisper, and it was just then gone, and she just doesn't even comment on it, and she says, "I'm not giving you anything," and then he goes back to being snide Kylo Ren, "We'll see in a week, Setter." So I mean, it was almost like the two of them shared this secret little moment where he was literally telling her something clandestine. But I think what happens in the interrogation is he tries to push into her mind, and she doesn't accept him, but they still, at least to a degree, he awakens something in her. They don't bond here completely, but he awakens something in her, and then in the snowy fight, you have where they both bond, because I think I've touched on this, the fact that he tells her, "I can show you the ways of the Force," and everything about the cut of the scene, the lighting, everything, it was meant to slow down, and then for her to look confused and say the Force, and then she closes her eyes, and to me it was odd because she didn't know about any of this, and now she's closing her eyes. And, I mean, she expects he's not going to push her, which he doesn't. But I think this was the point when they really met each other. This is when they bonded and truly met each other in December.
I
And
completely
then
agree. Oh my gosh, I love it. It's perfect. It's
but
true.
it is, I
It
know, it's so
fits. It
true.
fits so well. I mean, obviously these songs weren't written, for Reylo. It's not like all of these artists came together and said, "Okay, we're going to write these songs about this fictional pairing in Star Wars. You know, that's not what they were doing, but still, like, they chose. It's kind of uncanny, like how well these songs fit for the things
Mhm.
that happen in The Force Awakens and that could potentially happen in The Last Jedi. And
Mhm.
I think the most overwhelming message that I get from Rey's Spotify playlist is that when she falls for Kylo Ren, she's gonna fall really, really hard. And then the next verse is, I will love you till the end of time. I would wait a million years. Promise you'll remember that you're mine. Baby, can you see through the tears? Love you more than those bitches before. Say you'll remember, oh baby, say you'll remember. I will love you till the end of time.